Have a closed session this morning, and so consequently, we're going to go to item B2. That would be agenda approval, additions and deletions. Board members.
We just would like to ask if we could adjourn the meeting to Ben Gibbs, who passed away recently. She was a longtime employee in the county clerk's office, probably retired 25 years ago at least. So, very nice lady.
Mr. Chairman, just an idea, looks like we got a short agenda, so I just think maybe move the closed session from 1:30 to 11. Maybe we have an issue with that.
I would have no issue.
It's been posted, I don't know.
And you have Mr. Crabtree, is he coming?
That's,
No, he's not.
No, nobody comes.
Well, I'm sure Douglas is doing the presentation, so, and it has been suggested since we posted it, one would be better honor what was the public business.
very good. Thank you, staff, for your input. Thank you, Mr. Pyle, for your idea, but it sounds like we're going to go ahead and stick with our closed session at 1:30. That's item D6, by the way, for those of you who may be taking a look at your agenda. Mr. Pyle brought up the fact that we have a relatively short agenda this morning, and we do have a closed session agenda for time certain at 1:30 this afternoon. It's going to remain there. So consequently, staff, any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Supervisor Pyle, seconded by Supervisor Alba to approve the agenda as amended by Supervisor Chapman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Chair votes aye. Is there any opposition? Carries unanimously. We're going to move on to item number B3, which is public comment. Obviously, this is an opportunity for the public to address the Board of Supervisors on any item under their jurisdiction. We're happy to take your comments. I'm sure everybody understands, however, we cannot take any action on an item that's brought to us under public comment since it does not appear on the agenda. We did last week, in the interest of staff and audience, as a courtesy to the staff and the audience, and to try and remain a little bit more on our time schedule, we did implement a time limit on those presentations offered during public comment, as well as those presentations which are offered on items on the agenda. It's 3 minutes. At the discretion of the chair. It can be extended if so desired, but we're going to try and stick with that 3-minute time limit. And I would like to bring the attention to the Board of Supervisors that many other county boards have a light system, and this is really done to allow the person making a presentation to us, obviously, to know that maybe you better do a summation, if you will, as you're coming close to the end of your time period. And I understand county council has in her possession, oh, wait a minute, we have it up here. We won't be, so at the pleasure of the board, you want to use this, or you want to just try and do it informally for the time being?
What it does, this is suggested, I was at a county council meeting, Northern County Councils, they all use it. Looks like we're the only one who doesn't use the timer for 3-minute limits, which is printed on the front page of our agenda packet. I think Mr. Egan programmed it so that the green light goes on for 2 minutes, 3 minutes?
2 minutes and 45 seconds, and then 15 seconds for yellow.
Yellow. And then the red gives an extra 10 seconds, so they get a full 3 minutes and 10 seconds to, and it was just suggested by so many other county council, I went ahead and ordered one,
Well,
but it's up to the pleasure of the board if you want to use it.
3 minutes.
we may try. Kind of intimidating. What do you?
It is kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that on agendas where we have, like today is a relatively light
Right.
agenda, I don't see it as an issue, but when we have agendas that are really packed, where it's going to be difficult to.
We'll keep it.
To get it, yeah, I would say that we leave it to the discretion of the chair to use depending upon how heavy our agendas are. But I would say from today's agenda, I don't think that's going to be as a big
I
issue.
don't think it'll be
And
an
that's
issue
particularly
either.
true when we
It
have
is
scheduled.
kind of intimidating, so.
When we
we'll
have
keep it.
Distracting.
Hopefully nobody got a picture of that. Anyway, other than Gene, of course. Yes, I know you did. But you know, the implementation of the time limit, as I said, the chair reserves the discretion to allow a presenter to continue their comment It was a difficult thing for me because I personally, as chair, I like to run kind of a free-flowing meeting. But at the same time, I know that we've got a lot of folks in an audience for an item, and we were having them sit here for quite a while, taking away from their day of work or whatever it might have been, waiting for an agenda item. I was having difficulty keeping on schedule. So consequently, as I said, I want free flow of dialogue. I want the process to remain open, and we certainly want everybody's input. And we're going to just try and stick to the agenda, and maybe put just a little more structure around it. So, as I said, I'm a little bit conflicted, but we're going to go ahead and give it a try. We did last week, and I think we did okay. I don't believe we had any issues. So, all that being said, move on to item B3. I've got a couple of requests to address the board under the public comment portion. Eileen, yours was the first request. Would you like to start? Eileen Spencer.
Also, I understand from other meetings I've attended, public meetings, that if you know you're gonna need 4 minutes or 3.5 minutes, you can ask the board for additional time
Sure.
because of what you're presenting.
I would be very happy to entertain that as well. I agree. As I said, I sure want to retain some flexibility in that, obviously. So thank you. I appreciate your comment.
I try and keep mine within 3 minutes. This public body issued over 57 resolutions in 2012, which is about, I guess, one a meeting, averaging out, but we did 57, and we printed them out, but we couldn't print out 12057. It's not available to be printed. Copies of most of the resolutions are included in the board packets, and I'm assuming probably close to all of them. If you're gonna vote on something, it's gonna be in your packet. If you put it on the website, the public can not only review it and print it for free, but we're more prepared if that item is of interest to someone in the public. It's really nice convenience. You have your agenda on the website, and you have the documents, supporting documents on there. But for some reason, 12-057 wasn't even posted on there. And it had to do with your pay raises. So I don't know whether there was I'm gonna give you the benefit of the doubt that because it was your pay raise, it wasn't because you failed to put it on the website. It's not on there. So I was curious, and I went down and got a copy of it, but it should have been free. It wasn't free. I had to pay $3.75 for it, and the rest of the 2012, I didn't have to pay for it because I just printed them. So I'd like this practice to stop. The Brown Act 54957.5B2 says that it doesn't make you have a website. It says you may have a website, but you've decided to have a website, and it's just, we're not at the point yet, and I wanted to stop for a second and thank Susan, because for the first time in a very, very long time, all of the supporting documents were uploaded. You can get the minutes, you can get the resolutions, you can read them, you can print them. It was 100% perfect, which is really nice if you want to get involved in something that you're going to discuss that affects us. It's really nice. I wanted to compliment her on the fact that we did have 100% on there. But because you decided to have an internet website to post your agendas and to post your documents to the public, you can't decide which one you want us to know about and which one you don't want us to know about. And 12-057 was, I guess, something you didn't want us to know about. And this will be discussed in, later on the agenda also, the contents of this resolution. But I just would like this to continue. I'd like every agenda that you post on the website to have all the documents available. I don't think it's been that hard to do it because you get them all on there except one, or you get them all on there except two. So I know it's physically possible, and I want to compliment Susan again for getting them, every one of them on there, and they were all available to the public.
Thank you for your comments. You know, it's normally not appropriate to ask for a response, but I think the accusations there were fairly serious, although somewhat veiled. And so consequently, I'd like either county council or committee to respond. And I understand that this has already been researched, and they were there, the resolution was there.
That's correct.
Just want for the audience's clarification.
If you go to lassencounty.org and you go to the date that Ms. Spencer's talking about, which is November 27th, 2012. I just did it again, I did it last week as well. It says all pages, and you go right to it, and the resolution is right there for all to see that anybody could print if they want to. It's been there since November. So, I'm sorry, I don't know what website Ms. Spencer goes to, but every time she makes this claim, I'm looking at it online, and I do it the Thursday prior.
Thank you very much.
We do it the morning of the meeting, and it wasn't there. So it's nice that you've posted it for everybody now. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, it isn't appropriate that we have a discussion
No,
at this
it's not.
point under closed session, but when we get to the board comment period, I will have a comment
All
on
right,
it to
very good.
address.
All right, let's carry on with our, thank you very much. We'll carry on now with our public comment portion of the deliberation. Mr. Groudon, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
You've asked to address the board.
Yes. This is probably an informational item. I gave all of you copies of this. And what this is in reference to is, Westwood, you know, you guys passed a resolution somewhere along the line. I saw it last, a week and a half ago, when we did the sign dedication. And so, you know, Westwood's having a centennial this year. And part of the thing that we're trying to do is really establish the fact, a lot of people don't realize how much history there is in Westwood. And what was there at one time and so on and so forth. So a few years back, Johnny Villalobos and Alan Vaughn, who works in the museum, or worked in the museum at the time, came up with a walking tour and so on, which this is part of. This has been updated. This is the updated version. So you have a map with the points of historical interest, and then inside you have the pictures and information about all the different places that were at one time in town. And what we would like to do, or want to do, is establish a red line tour, red being Westwood, everything's red anyway, a red line tour where you can pick this up at the visitor center and either walk, drive, ride a bike, whatever, and follow the red line around town, which goes through all the sites and so on, so you can follow the tour. And it's an idea we had, I was down in Oroville recently, and they have a green line thing. I know in Eureka they have one. I know we were talking before the meeting, Boston has one.
Boston's a classic, that's right.
Yeah, and so we want to do something like that in the town of Westwood. It's not going to be one that I get the chamber to do, because I'm on the board for the chamber, to do that, so the road department doesn't have to maintain it. But we wanted to come before you and present it to you and let you know what we want to do with that and see if there's any problems with you guys on that. And then I want to invite you to come over and take it once it's in and be a part of the centennial. There's all kinds of things going on with the new signs and buildings painted and decorated and all kinds of stuff happening all over the town of Westwood. So I would encourage you to come over the 6th and be a part of that and see what's going on. And one of the things they are doing too that's kind of neat is they're going through and taking the town history and going back to 1913 and taking 100 people that are influential in the town, and it's all part of the parade and everything else for the public to see, the people recognizing all the people that have had significant contributions to the town of Westwood over the last 100 years. So anyway, the red line tour is what I came to talk to you about and give you the information on so you can see what exactly we're talking about. to any questions.
Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm sure the road departments won't mind at all. I'm sure they
No, not a problem at all. We'll issue
Work with them on
a person
that.
permit and help them out.
can. Very good. Is there anybody else? Go ahead, Jimmy.
Excellent.
Yep, that really is. Yeah. Hopefully the Walker family's gonna participate in some fashion.
One of the son's family was up on the 16th,
Good, that's good.
touring their properties and stuff, and did make a visit to the museum and check out things around town.
Great. Is there anybody else in the audience wishing to address the board under the public comment portion of our deliberations here this morning? Seeing none, we're gonna, excuse me, we're gonna move on to unagendized reports. And we'll start with Supervisor Pyle.
I have nothing to answer.
Thank you. Supervisor Alba.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marty.
I really have nothing to report other than on July the 8th, up there at Aiden, there's amateur astronomer, they have a big get together on January 8th. That's for the public, that's come up. Look through telescopes, look at the stars and whatnot, it's more than welcome, it's a pretty neat setup. Usually 300 to 400 people there.
Stargate.
Yeah,
If you got a prison in the valley, you might not be able to do it.
then you couldn't do it.
That's
no.
the reason
That's
why.
why it's up there.
Dark
It's
sky,
dark
yeah.
That's exactly correct.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Very good.
And what's that called there?
It's a Golden State Star Party is what it's like their quarterly get together.
Supervisor Chapman?
Just a couple items, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Yesterday, the Transportation Commission had a special meeting and kind of handled a couple items that couldn't wait till the meeting of July 8th. And dealing with some route changes for the South County commuter because of the sequestration of the federal funds that had to change some of the shifts. So we're going to be adjusting some of that routes to accommodate them for the next 4 months. And I think staff and the depot and everyone in the bus company have got that worked out. The other item was that we had a discussion on the in-town routes and some potential changes to be considered. So it was a chance to have some discussion beforehand instead of after the fact in terms of changes there. And I think there's going to be some improvements made and there'll be some modifications. I think it's going in a direction that could probably showing the growth of the system. And as part of that, yesterday morning, just as a kind of a field trip, Councilman Brian Wilson and I decided to, so we could see what it is we're talking about more firsthand. We came over here across the street and we jumped on the bus for an hour, paid our $1, and we rode the whole circuit. And it was quite enlightening to see just what we have going. It's been quite a while since we've done that. We've been on the bus a few times in special charter just to ride the bus as it would be from the day-to-day perspective of the users and the number of people coming on and getting off and where they're going to and chatting with them and stuff. It was, I thought it was a very refreshing experience. And I would recommend if anybody's interested in seeing firsthand what is available there in terms of service. I was really appreciative of the quality of service that the bus company is providing. The buses are clean. And the drivers are very helpful in terms of providing information to those who had questions and so forth. And I think I might just do it again. Who knows, I think if we need to go somewhere, it might be a good way to get downtown. But that was all part of that meeting yesterday. Also wanted to just share with the board Sunday, we worked with the Blue Star Mom. We had a work party Sunday afternoon down at the Veterans Hall, and we cleaned up and scrubbed up about 45 to 50 banners that are in waiting rotation. Some of them are being circulated out for retirement because the service people aren't in service anymore. We have 5 banners that are all ready to go. There's about 20 more that, 15 to 20 more that are coming to determine their status. Most of them I think are still in the service, but Christine Wood's trying to verify that information. And we've got about 15, pushing now maybe 16 new banners to be made. So I appreciate the contribution that Mr. Powell made with his discretionary funds, because that will go towards that particular project. So we're going to be placing an order for some new banners. So over the next few weeks, we hope to have pretty much every banner on Main Street replaced out, either with one that's due to go back up or a new banner to be installed. And then those banners, when they come down, will be cleaned and stored and waited until they're ready to go back up again. But the program is, we haven't had a lot of activity over the last several months, and so it's at that time where we need to do that. So the Blue Star Moms is just an outstanding organization to work with, and it was a lot of fun to be part of that work party. And then I just would like to close by just adding a comment to what Mrs. Spencer spoke to, dealing with the website and so forth. And I appreciate the insight and information that she brings forward. That's always relevant. But the one thing I do have a little bit of concern about, and that's the inference that we as board members go into and selectively determine what documents go up or not. I mean, other than what you have shared with us, here today and in the recent past, I've been unaware of any problems with connectivity with the website. I go out there quite often to check on documents. I find it as a great resource when I can't find a copy of a document to go back to a previous meeting. Sometimes if I have an issue that we're getting ready to vote on, I want to remember what was, how I voted even. I will actually go back and access minutes and so forth. And I've never run into a problem of accessibility. But I think the inference that we as board members selectively determine what documents go up and not, I have to assure you, that is, I have never, in my years of being on the board, have ever contacted staff or requested staff or whatever. So if there are documents that are not posting for whatever reason, it's not because the board is trying to manipulate or hide a particular document. And I've always relied on the professionalism of staff, and I think our staff has been professional in many respects of putting forth the work and effort that's there. And if there's been technological or other problems that have been generated until now, that really hasn't been an issue. One complaint I have had, and I'll share this for what it's worth, and it's an issue that I've addressed with the clerk's office, and the only time I've ever talked with the clerk's office about the status of our website and our documents being posted. It's always was frustrating to me when I first started using the website that when you go out to find the agenda, you had to go over to the one column and scroll all the way to the bottom and find the newest one added at the bottom. It was the same issue I had with the Nortec group and their website, because they posted their agendas the same way, where you had to go to the very bottom, and if you slip out of the column, then all of a sudden you had to start all over again. And I didn't find that to be very user-friendly. And I brought that issue to the clerk's office, I would say, quite a long time ago. And the answer that they gave the board and gave you was the same answer they gave me then, was that they have this is a proprietary program, and there's some guy over like on the coast there by Humboldt or wherever, Eureka, that apparently writes it, and he's the only person that can go in there and make whatever changes. And it costs money to have him do that, and we'll try to get that squared away the next time we do an upgrade. And so to me, that program has been in use, I would say, probably close to 20 years. I mean, it dates back to maybe sometime in the 90s, long before the current county clerk and staff maybe even was working with it, at least going back to around 2000. And the issue is that, I've asked Mr. Nichols to address this, and I would like to see maybe the board even put this on the agenda for a discussion, maybe when we're doing the budgets or something. But I'm in favor of us putting some budgetary resources in there with the idea of looking at what other programs that are available. Some of them there are a lot more newer in nature. I think when this program was written, it was written back in the days when we had DOS before Windows came along. And having done some programming in terms of I know what it's like when you have, whoever's got the code and whoever constructs the program, you're basically tied to that rather than having an open-ended type of a software program. And I think there's got to be other types of software that would be available that would be more flexible, that would allow the staff to customize, would not make us dependent upon one person having to go in there and modify the program or how we want the program to perform. And I think that needs to be explored. And if it takes a few dollars to invest in basically modernizing that, I think that would be worth exploring. But I think that some of the frustrations I've heard expressed is driven by, by the limitations of the software that the staff has been utilizing rather than the staff. And I just want to dispel the notion, unless there's other members of the board who who obviously do have access and go into, but I've never, in the time I've been on the board, have ever asked the staff to not post some document or to manipulate the file that way as though it's something that the board has done. The board, I think, is totally detached from that end of the operation. I think the staff puts up the agenda and all the relevant documents that go with it. And the only time there's in the agenda, and there's sometimes departments do not provide in a timely fashion the handouts, the inserts. And we get on the beginning of the agenda, it says, there's a little slip of paper in our binder that the agenda binder has everything except for items, this, and that, and it's reflecting the fact that those documents were not produced and given to the county clerk. So it may be that some of those documents won't show up on the website because the website, I mean, the staff doesn't have it and the board doesn't have it. And I think they're all required to have their documentation turned in advance by a certain time frame. But to criticize the clerk's office or whatever for a document not being available, it may be that the document doesn't exist. But the idea and the notion, and that's what I wanted to speak to, the inference that the board selectively chooses what documents get posted or not, I would have to say is not valid, because the board has never conducted itself that I'm aware in that fashion, and I would be opposed to the board conducting itself in that fashion. I believe any document we have should be made available there, and I find it as a valuable resource to access and download, and I do that on a fairly frequent basis when I can't find my hard copy in a handy fashion. So that's what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your suggestion, Julie or Retta. Supervisor Chapman obviously has suggested that we may want to explore some other options for the county website.
Not the website,
Not the
but the
website,
software
but
we use to manage our agenda.
you have to help me out with that stuff, but it's beyond Bob and me.
And I've made that suggestion to Julie several times over the years, and I know that she has looked at that, but maybe what we need to go is from looking at it to
With
actually.
a little bit more resources
Yeah.
behind it.
And put some budget, and it's not gonna be cheap. I mean, it could cost, I don't know, could
Let's at
cost some
least
money.
open up the discussion. I think
But
it's
if
an
it
excellent
makes, if it makes everything that much more user-friendly for everybody, I think that's the expectation that we have. This idea that we have this old system and people are frustrated and try to use that to beat staff up or beat the board up, I just don't think is fair.
Thank you. So we'll go ahead and, if you could, Julie, amongst the rest of your issues, maybe we can get somebody on that. Thank you very much. And for myself on unagendized reports, other than attending the transportation with you, Supervisor Chapman, I don't have anything to report. And if I look at the clock, by the time I announce this, it's going to be 10 o'clock. I don't want to get chastised for doing anything too early. Look at that. Okay, we're going to move on then to our matter set for time certain, which is under D in your agenda. We're going to go on to D2, excuse me, which is a 10 a.m. time certain, and that's the adoption of ordinance 2013-002. So,
Yes. Thank you.
yep,
Thank you, Mr.
I
Chairman.
will pass the ball to the secretary.
Luckily me today.
Thank you.
Last week, we introduced ordinance number 2013-002 and waived the first reading, and we're back here today. The recommended action is to adopt the ordinance, it's to waive the second reading and adopt the ordinance regarding the Board of Supervisors' salary, benefits, and expenses. And as part of the memo discussion, just for the benefit of what's happening, beginning July 17, 2013, all county employees will be required to pay the full member contribution to CalPERS. In exchange, employee salaries will increase by like amount